So in my last video, I reviewed the iPhone 14 Pro, and that video is doing very well right now, which tells me that there is likely a lot of interest around this phone. But here's the thing, if you are someone who's interested in this phone, and even if you have watched my last video or any other video about this phone, I'm sure you still have some unanswered questions because there's only so much anyone can talk about in like a 9-minute long video. You can't possibly answer all questions. So in the spirit of helping people and making valuable content, I thought, why not give you guys a chance to ask me literally anything about this phone, and I'll answer it to the best of my knowledge while being as honest as I possibly can be. And well, I got a bunch of questions, but there were 5 in particular that were asked the most. The first one is about the dynamic island, and for good reason, because after all, it is one of the highlight features of this phone. So people want to know my opinion about it compared to when I first got the phone and now, and is it a big problem when watching videos in landscape? Because if you don't know, the dynamic island sits a bit lower than notch. So if you watch a video in landscape that happens to be in a 2:1 aspect ratio or wider, the island will cut into the video more than the notch, which is annoying, yes, but because it doesn't move, eventually your brain forgets that it's there. It's just like your nose, it's always in your field of view, but you don't really see it. So although it's not a deal breaker, it could be better. But generally speaking, I like the dynamic island. I think it's a cool feature, and my opinion about that has not changed ever since I got this phone. But at the same time, like I said in my review video, it's not something I find myself using a lot. In fact, I barely use it. You can totally give me an older iPhone right now and I can switch to it no problem. I will not miss this island, but that doesn't make it a bad feature. I would much rather have this functionality than just having a massive black spot on the screen at all times. Ideally though, I want to see it working with a lot more apps, and at that point I think it will become way more useful. The second question was if this phone lags or has any kind of bugs, and based off of my experience using this phone, I have never seen it lag. At least I don't remember it. Now, it may be helpful to know that I don't play any games, but I do use social media, Google Chrome, Gmail, the messaging app, the camera sometimes, and maybe a little bit of Lightroom throughout the week for photo editing. That's basically it, and it does not lag. However, I have seen a few little bugs here and there. For example, I remember there was one time I was messaging a friend on Instagram and my keyboard wouldn't show up. So little things like that, nothing too serious though. Plus, honestly, the bugs I have seen appear to be more of an iOS problem and not an iPhone 14 Pro problem, because I have seen similar things on other iPhones as well. So generally, if performance is something you're worried about, you really shouldn't be, as long as you're, I don't know, mining Bitcoin or something on this phone, because this phone has the A16 Bionic processor, which is by far the fastest and the best in an iPhone right now. Just like Squarespace, it's also one of the best and one of the most well-known all-in-one website building platforms. Not only do they have a plethora of award-winning templates to choose from to get your site up and running in literally hours, but they've also got great SEO tools to help you maximize prominence in search results. You can also run marketing campaigns, set up an online store, or even have a membership that people can sign up for. And everything is really easy to use and understand for even someone using it for the first time. But if you do get stuck, they do have 24/7 customer service, so you can always ask for help. If you want to get started, visit squarespace.com/spixel and get 10% off your first purchase. And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. The third question was if the 48 megapixel camera makes a noticeable difference, especially when it comes to detail, and does the camera still over-process photos? Well, I think the 14 Pro has great cameras. You can get some really good photos and videos during the day and night, especially with the main camera sensor, because it is quite large and can capture a lot of light. And 48 megapixel photos taken from this phone are in fact sharper and have more detail. There is a difference for sure, but you do have to look for it. It's not like a night and day difference. So as far as detail is concerned, the 48 megapixel mode is only slightly better. I don't think it should ever be the only reason to buy this phone unless you're really into smartphone photography. And when it comes to over-processing photos, I don't think this phone exactly over-processes them, but I do think there are times when photos are perhaps misprocessed, if that makes sense. Because, for example, when it comes to faces, this phone likes to make the shadows brighter, which can slightly decrease the contrast, making the face look a bit flat in terms of colors, and that doesn't always look natural. So that is something that can be improved. So maybe Apple needs to retrain their algorithm to edit photos more naturally. Right now it's not bad, but it could be better. If you want to know more about this though, I would recommend you watch this video from Marquez if you haven't already. The fourth question is about battery life. Is it good or bad? And while I certainly don't think the battery life is bad, because I can get around 8 hours of screen on time on a single charge, which should also be enough for you as long as you're not a serious gamer and you're using your phone for typical things like social media, browsing, texting, watching videos, and maybe using the camera a little bit here and there throughout the week. If that's the case, with this phone, you should be able to get through your day just fine. But you also shouldn't be surprised if you manage to kill it by the end of the day, because it's totally possible to do that. So just know that. Now, the last but not least most asked question was, should I upgrade to this phone or wait? So whether you have an iPhone 12 Pro right now, the 13, or maybe the 11, 12, 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever, and if you want to upgrade to this phone, for the most part, it's a decision you have to make for yourself. What I can say though, if you are currently using a phone that's maybe up to 3 years old and it's working fine with no problems, then I think you should wait till the 15 comes out and see what Apple has to offer and then decide. But if you can't wait for whatever reason, and overall this phone seems to fit your needs and wants, then sure, go ahead and buy it. But just before you do that, you might want to check out my full review video of this phone, because that's where I talked about things in a lot more detail, and I think it will be helpful. But yeah, that's all for this video. This was the first time I tried something like this. And if you liked it or if you found it helpful, let me know. And if you want to be a part of something like this in the future, then subscribe and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And I'll see you later.